I believe that the primary reason why people hate Exotical United's content and the space that she has created on YouTube so much is because of how inclusive it is in nature. Creasy Space required you to be a Black woman who had two characteristics. You had to be dark-skinned and unambiguously Black. So you could not benefit from colorism, and you could not benefit from featureism or texturism. And because of how harsh and black and white her talking points were, and how great of a job they did excluding Black women who were in her space looking for the same empowerment that she was not even given to dark-skinned Black women who were unambiguous. Because let's be real, she really, the biggest thing you could get to, your biggest takeaway from her channel is that if you're dark-skinned and you're unambiguous, you are disabled in society. And you need to know that other women who don't look like you are superior to you, and you got to look out for them. So she fostered a lot of hatred, and she created a lot of insecurity within her target audience. Meanwhile, Exotical United's content, it seems like if I were branding her, if I were a marketer and I was explaining what her content does, I would explain to whoever that she essentially creates content around pretty privilege, the pretty privilege experienced by Black women who are not dark-skinned or unambiguously Black. However, I would have to give them a caveat and explain that if the person outside of her target audience is benefiting from pretty privilege, principally, in principle, they will still be able to resonate. Her content will resonate with them because of the experience that they're having in the world and the microaggressions that they're experiencing because of how they look and how the world perceives them as attractive. Because you're going to get some smoke if you're perceived as attractive. You know, it's just a thing you have to accept. Because along with the privilege, you're going to get some smoke. You have to know that. And you have to be okay with it. You know, you do. You have to make your peace with that. And still keep your ego in check and not allow it to go to your head. And I think, as an aside, Fanita is a great example. What we're watching in real time happen with her. She is someone whose pride exceeded their ability. Because one thing that's never going to resonate is being a crappy person, having crappy character. In what world can you come and yell and scream at your followers and supporters that you hate them, that they're poor, that they are scum to you? Like, in what world can you do that? And that you've been waiting to tell them that? You've been waiting to lose weight so you could tell them that? Like, that's crazy. But back to my purpose for coming here. People hate the Exotical United space so much, and her and Exotical United specifically. I'm just EU going forward. They hate her because she is giving voice to the privileges experienced by dark-skinned Black women who benefit from featureism and texturism. And she's giving voice to the privileges experienced by light-skinned Black women who benefit from colorism, even if they have everything else blackity black, black, black on them. Hair, texture, features, blackity black, black, black. She is giving voice to the fact that these women, these types of women are, and it's not fair. You know, I do have to take time to like acknowledge it's not fair that in the world you're treated based on how you look and there's a preference for certain traits. But I feel like there are people out there who don't like her content because they don't want to acknowledge that a dark-skinned woman who has features and a texture of hair that's coveted is still going to get more praise and more experience, more privileges than a woman of her exact complexion, or maybe even lighter than her, who doesn't benefit from featurism or texturism in the way that she does. People don't want to acknowledge that. I don't know why. And then people don't want to acknowledge that lighter skinned black women who are not benefits of featurism or texturism, but are benefiting from colorism, which is, again, is not fair, that they also, you know, are not, they're not, I hate to say lumped in, but it's a different life. Now, I'm not privy to what it's like to be a biracial woman or a mixed race woman or a woman who benefits from texturism or featurism. But for whatever I am, for whatever it is, it's been okay. But one thing about me, because of how I was raised, I wasn't raised to focus on the external. So I don't focus on the external. You know, I don't. And because of that, I'm able to keep my humility intact. And I think people who have their humility intact, that's a whole nother level of attractiveness, in my opinion. And that doesn't take away from my ability to clock when I'm not being spoken to properly or when I'm not being treated fairly, because my self-esteem is solid. My self-esteem is good. So I just feel like people who are not benefiting from pretty privilege may be mad at dark-skinned women who are, and may be mad at lighter-skinned black women who are, especially if the dark-skinned women have curly or straight hair or small, keen features, especially if the light-skinned women have noses and lips for days. I do believe that a lot of the hatred, because I've heard people say like, oh, you know, a light-skinned black woman's experience is not the same as a biracial woman's experience or a mixed woman's experience. Why is she even catering to them? And I can say from a firsthand experience, pretty privilege is going to do it every time. And you're going to feel the wrath of women who are triggered by those privileges, or however these unambiguous features are sitting, whatever it is, it's enough to create space for microaggressions sight unseen. But also I get free stuff every week, you know? And I think that has a lot to do with the humility portion, which is why this verse is on the screen. There is something to say for having good manners and social graces. The combination of being, I guess, socially attractive or socially whatever, I don't know. Because I don't like to focus on the external. too much. Only enough to explain what's happening and why, but not enough to like I don't want to do anything that minimizes or comes for my humility, because I think humility is beautiful in the sight of God, and I have to be pretty to him, and he really don't be caring about these physical things. But you know who does care about these physical things? The women who are mad. The women on, I heard EU say, Crusty Lip Alley. They really want everybody to be... I ain't never been on Lipstick Alley, to be honest with you. And I do feel like when you are out here living life and just enjoying what life has to offer and trying to accomplish goals, I didn't even know Lipstick Alley existed. I really didn't. I can't even imagine taking time out of my busy life to go on there and talk negatively about people on YouTube. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. But with that being said, yeah, I just wanted to highlight the real reason that people are mad at EU is that she includes and counts as exoticals women who are not mixed or biracial or unambiguous. And I think that her recognition that those women, if pretty enough, are still out here in large numbers experiencing microaggressions, reverse colorism, and all the other shady things that women are exposed to by other women when those women are male-centered and they view that woman as competition, or they think she's having an easier life, or they think she's pretty. I have a video posted right now. It was a pretty little girl walking across the street, walking in a parking lot to her car with what looks to be her boyfriend. All she was doing was being pretty and happy. That's really all she was doing, minding her own business. And some triggered woman saw her and blew the horn at her, called her a female dog, and for nothing. And her reason was that she wanted them to get out of the street. And just how idiotic can you be? In order to walk in a parking lot, you're gonna be in the street. There's no way to avoid the street when you're in a parking lot walking to your car. Everyone knows that. And that woman could have cared less about her being that little pretty girl being in the street. She cared that her hair was long and that it was a soft texture and that she was pretty and either paper bag brown or lighter. That is why that little girl got yelled at, cursed at, the horn blowed at, and called out of her name, because she existed as a pretty little girl in the world, and she triggered that woman who was obviously older than her. And that's what it is like sometimes it's just that unprovoked, and it had nothing to do with her having bad energy. Have you ever considered that maybe it's your character that the people don't like? No. And usually the people who are offering that as an explanation for a lot of the discrimination and terrible treatment that women face when they are on the receiving end of pretty privilege, a lot of those women don't understand because they're not experiencing those types of privileges, and they want to justify the treatment, the raggedy treatment that they're giving to women who don't deserve it. But anyways, yeah, nobody wants to acknowledge that black women, quote unquote, regular black women, can be victims and recipients of pretty privilege because of colorism. And nobody wants to acknowledge, I guess, that darker skinned black women can be recipients and victims of featureism, recipients and victims of texturism. And because EU has acknowledged those things and created a space that's inclusive of all those different phenotypes, people are really mad. Because if you are a white woman and you're not experiencing the pretty privileges of any kind of black woman who you believe yourself to be superior than, you're going to be mad if you aren't good with who you are. And if you are a biracial woman and you aren't experiencing the privileges that you should be because of colorism, because of texturism and featureism, you're going to be mad. And unfortunately, if you aren't benefiting from any of the isms unfairly, you're going to be mad too. Everybody is going to be mad. Unless they've done the work, to quote Iyanla. And you prettier when you do the work also, by the way. Thanks for listening.